There you go. All right, here we go. I pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You guys are dead for Tuesday. Dead.
Yeah, we're still dead. We're dead from Monday.
Monday we're energetic. Tuesday we just die. Wednesday we open up a little bit. Thursday it's bad, and then Friday we just don't do anything.
That's clearly not true.
No,
All right, hey,
now Friday.
listen up. Listen up. All right, mask on. You guys are doing a bad job with your mask.
Is it true that we're gonna get a detention if we don't wear our masks?
Yes.
So if there's a student that isn't smart enough to do what's asked, then yes, that's the case. But you guys are plenty smart. You guys will absolutely know what to do. All right, homework, get it out. Let's go. I will not forget to put a 0 in the grade book.
I wasn't even here yesterday.
You were here yesterday, Jaden.
Yeah, but I put my bags on bell.
All right, jack it off. All right, take off the inappropriate or not inappropriate, but take off the.
Inappropriate.
Oh my God, this has a little red
You're,
mark.
you're good. You're good. You're good. Okay. Any questions? Please stop talking. Any questions on the homework? Yes.
So this is more of like something.
You guys, hey, stop.
Sorry.
Go
This is more
ahead.
of something how I labeled it. Instead of doing a chart, I just did like the
That's
number
fine.
and A and B.
That's fine. A and B is fine. He's talking about the chart where you had to go vertical. You understand what I meant? All right. So this was page 112.
So I just
Hey, I know I make this as a kind of a joking comment, but I never forget to put 0 in the grade book if you don't do your homework. So for those of you that show up without your homework, I mean, I'm seeing repeated people without their homework in multiple days. Parent-teacher conference is coming up in just a few weeks, right? The very first thing that I always do with your parents is I pull up your grades and I say, oh, look, he's got 8 missing assignments. And then when mom and dad says, why does they don't even get to, why does my son or daughter have a C or a D? They see the 8 missing assignments, right? They can put 2 and 2 together. Your parents aren't dumb, right? Do your homework. It's part of your responsibility as a student. It's part of the learning process, right? Make sure it's a habit. I just do my homework. That's it. I had a conversation with a girl yesterday. It wasn't this class, but I was going away on the weekend. I was gone all 3 days. I was like, well, why didn't you bring your math book? It's like, what do you expect me to do the math homework in the car? And I go, yes, I do. I expect you to do your homework, right? It's up to you. That's your responsibility. Yes, you don't have control over your parents send you somewhere over the weekend, but you have a responsibility to do your work, right? Plan your life accordingly. Oh, by the way, now granted not on Fridays, but last period of the day is student advisement. I have yet to walk into your classroom, right, Ms. Jamhorst. I have yet to walk in your classroom and see everyone working during student advisement. Great, you got all your homework done, right? You do what Ms. Jamhorst says. But when I see that, it just tells me, well, they have no excuse to have their homework not done. What? Speak. Yeah. Nice, right?
Amber is our student advisor teacher.
Mrs. Coleman.
He's Michael.
All right. Here we go. This was 9 through 20. Oh, written exercises. So the person who asked me about question number 8, who was that midpoint person? Admit it. Who was it?
We only did 9.
I know. Who was it? Okay, so I was actually questioning myself when you brought that question up there. I was like, wait, that's today's homework. Why would I have assigned that? I didn't make a mistake. You made a mistake. All right, but now you know the answer for tonight's homework, right? All right, number 9, I'm going to go vertically. It doesn't break it up into an A or B. I'm just going to go vertically. So the first answer is 450 centimeters, and the second answer is 4,500 millimeters. Technically, you should be putting the abbreviations for centimeters, millimeters. Centimeters is cm, millimeters is mm. All right, number 10. Centimeters is 163, millimeters is 1,630. If you saw that pattern, there's no work to do after you solve the first one, right? You see how it goes. Oh, I'm just moving a decimal place. I'm not really, well, I mean, technically you are doing math, but I'm not doing a calculation. I'm moving a decimal place. All right. Number 11 is 2.5 meters and 2,500 millimeters. Number 12 is 0.826 meters and 826 millimeters. Meters would be 0.826 and millimeters would be 826. Number 13, meters is 6,600 and centimeters is 6,000. Number 14, meters is 0.368 and centimeters is 36.8. All right, and then 15 through 20, just one answer. Let's see, 15 is 2 kilometers. 16 is 0.02 kilometers. 17 is 0.625 kilometers, km. 18 is 3,000 meters. 19 is 4,500 meters. And 20 is 250 meters. All right. Make sure your names are on those. All right, pass it out. What? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't get 16 or 17. I did 2.1.
Okay. All right. As they're passing out, you should be writing down your homework. Homework is as follows. Quiz at the end of the week. Hey, we're not going to do the metric system. We'll do a little bit today just for practice, but we're not going to see the metric system until the quiz. Do not lose your sheet of paper that tells you how to do the metric system. There is your homework for tonight. Copy that down, please. Oh, Jaden, write in your planner. Had a meeting with 2 parents on Friday, and they were like, well, my student doesn't write anything in their planner. Hey, if you were in lower school, we would be forcing you right now, by the numbers. If you remember last year, right? Pull out your planners with your right hand, grab your pencil. With your left hand, place your left hand on the left side of the paper. I mean, literally, that's how we treat lower school students, at least at this school, because we want them to learn how to do it. And for many students, that's what you need to do. When you get to upper school, which you are in now, we expect you to be able to do that by yourself. We do not instruct you on that. If you choose not to write things down in your planner and you fail, right? Well, there's one indication of why you're failing is you're not doing your job. We're not giving you instructions on that. We will say, write this down in your planner, and that's the extent of it. Yes. But I only say this because I know parent-teacher conferences are coming up, but it's like the #1 conversation to have with parents all the time, Friday included, right? When a student has missing homework, one of the questions the parents always ask is, well, how do I know they had homework? Well, obviously, Power School is one way, but that's after the fact, right? Power School doesn't tell you what the homework is on Wednesday. It will on Wednesday because then it's due on Thursday. But you guys are responsible for writing your homework down. Thank you. All right, an easy day today. I mean, like it is an easy day, okay? Here we go. So remember the section was entitled yesterday, Measuring Segments. We didn't measure any segment yesterday. That's what we're doing today. But because the problems they gave us involves the metric system to measure, that's why I gave that class on how to use the metric system. Okay, here we go. So we're going to do a quick, just to make sure we're solid on the metric system. Recall, a segment, because that's what we're going to be measuring today, is a part of a line that connects 2 points. We name segments by their endpoints, not by any of the points between the 2 endpoints, but by the 2 endpoints of the segment. So this is segment AB. Now segments can be called in either direction, right to left or left to right, or up and down, down to up. This is also BA. This is the name. You see visually, I have 2 letters and I have a line segment over the top. That is the name of this item. Today, we're not going to be worried about the name of the item. We're going to be worried about its length, right? Its distance, how big it is, right? So today we're going to be measuring the actual segment. We're going to be using a metric ruler. We're not going to be measuring in inches, but we'll be using a metric ruler. Yesterday I asked who knows the metric system. Why we use the metric system? Because it's based on base 10. It's easy to work with base 10, right? A ruler is base 12, right? Until you get to yards, and it's not base 12 anymore. That's weird. Miles is also not base 10 either. You count to 5,280 and then you go to the next one. That's crazy. It's a different measuring system. It's the one that we use, by the way, right? The standard or the imperial measuring system. Imperial units is what we live with in everyday life, but if you do anything in math or science, we only use the metric system because it's easier. Remember, this is the key on our Friday when we take our quiz of passing the metric system is being able to remember that King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk and remembering how to use it. Remember the K stands for kilo. Kilo means 1,000. H stands for hecto. It means 100. D is deca. It stands for 10, decade. The base units are meters, liters, and grams. Remember there's two D's here that can be confusing. One says deca. One says deci. It's an alphabetical order from left to right. That's how I kept track in my head. Deci, like decimals, right? Deci means a tenth. Centi means 100th, right? And milli means 1,000. Okay? The key to remember this is King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And then once that's set up to convert between anything in the metric system, you're just moving a decimal place. That's why the decimal system rules, right? Pun intended. It is a very simple system to use. Right? None of you right now can tell me how many inches in a mile. Yet you can tell me how many millimeters are in a hectometer simply by moving a decimal place. Nothing to remember other than this one thing. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. All right. There are other measuring things that we use. These are called international units or standard units. But the three that we generally focus on are mass. Mass is not weight. How much does it weigh? You may or may not have learned this in science class. When you say how much something weighs, you mean gravity. Gravity, right? Or the attraction of objects to themselves, right? Believe it or not, everyone has gravity. Like if we were in the middle of outer space and nothing around us, no stars, no suns, anything, and I was standing next to Jameson, literally gravity would pull us together. It would take a long time, but it would pull us together. That's what gravity is. When we say the weight of something, how much do you weigh? It means how much is the force that's pulling you towards the center of the earth. That's what we mean by weight, right? When I say how much does this thing in my hand weigh, that's what it means. Things weigh differently on the earth and on the moon and on Saturn, all that jazz. Because gravity is strong on Saturn, it's less on the moon than here it is on Earth. We talk about mass. Mass is this concept of how much stuff is inside this volume, right? Volume is the amount of space inside of an object. Mass is how much stuff is inside that. Mass is measured in grams. It's not a weight, it's a mass. Liquid volume is measured in liters, and distance is measured in meters. We add those prefixes, those kilo, centi, hecto, deca, deci, to these three words to describe how big or how large that particular value is. Okay. And the reason why we love the metric system one last time is because none of you right now could tell me any of that. Yet you could do the same thing with the metric system like that because it's just moving a decimal place. Every single math book that exists, you flip to the front or maybe it's the back, and they have a table of conversion units. Why? Because when you use these imperial units, right, it makes it really challenging to do. Not in the metric system. So this is what you had last night for homework. You converted 12 meters to millimeters. All you got to remember is this right here. 12 meters to kilometers. Well, meters is a base unit. So I'm going from a base unit all the way to the M. I'm moving towards the right. Let's see. I'm starting at the B and I'm moving 1, 2, 3 letters to the right. 3 letters to the right literally means 3 decimal places to the right. So I take the number that I'm given, 12, and I move it 3 decimal places to the right. 1, 2, 3, and I'm done. right? This is why the metric system is easy. If we were converting 12 feet into miles, we'd have to flip to the back of the book. Well, what's the conversion factor for feet to mile, or for inches to mile, whatever I said was the example. Then we'd have to pull out our calculator because it's ugly numbers, right? We did this conversion to metric system in, I don't know, 5-6 seconds. If you already have this written on your top of your paper, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, it's like it's an easy thing. You shouldn't, no one should get those questions wrong come Friday for the quiz. Once again, centimeters to millimeters, centimeters to millimeters, where centimeters is here, millimeters is here. I'm moving one letter to the right. So I move the decimal place one place to the right. So 412.5 millimeters. Easy. This also works in the other direction if we go to the left. So if I convert millimeters to meters, the hardest thing is the base units, right? Remember, meters, liters, grams. Okay, so occasionally kids will think of meters as this M. This is the milli, right, not the meters. Meters is underneath the letter B. Okay, pay attention. Okay. So if I go from millimeters to meters, I'm going 1, 2, 3 letters to the left. So I move the decimal place 3 to the left. 1, 2, I need to add a 0. 3. That's what you had last night for homework. Any questions? Can you do this right now?
Yes.
All right, so do the box number 1 all by yourself. Do box 1 all by yourself, yes.
When you converted it, like when you moved the decimal place, you said the number and then you said millimeters.
What did I say?
Oh, never mind. I saw the millimeters up there. I'm sorry.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
Why do you do the exact same example?
Exactly as we did yesterday. Just for this. This is just to make sure that we got this solid before I move on. Tonight for homework, they're going to actually have you measure something and then convert it. So if we can't do what we had last night for homework, then we can't do the homework tonight. So I just want to make sure we got this. Questions? Anybody need help? Which one? Second one. So you have written on your paper somewhere, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Where are we going from? The K to the M stands for millimeters. See what I mean? The meters is the one that will kick your butt. Meters, liters, grams actually is the B. If instead of you want to write D, instead of writing the B, if you want to write literally meters, liters, and grams so that you won't make that mistake, go ahead and do that. Yes?
Is the one
Yeah. I'm trying to work ahead. We good? All right, Parker, first one. What do you got? What do you got? 0.250, right? If we go from centimeters to meters, we're moving how many decimal places? We're moving twice to the, so if I move it 2 places to the left, 1, 2, I'm not getting that, I'm getting 2.5. Parker, yes? Okay. Secondly, make sure that you don't forget to put what you're measuring. Now, I wrote out the whole word, right, in case you forget the abbreviation. The abbreviation for meters is just plain old M. What's the abbreviation for mile? MI. ML is actually the abbreviation for milliliters, right? So MI is for miles. Occasionally, our book will switch back between standard or imperial units and metric units. So you got to be careful. The MI is miles. M is always meters.
Why is pound LB?
Because it's Latin for librum, something like that. So yeah, I mean, literally in Latin, the word pound is the word librum. Librum, let's ask Siri.
Hey Siri.
Hey Siri, what is Latin for pound? Oh, she doesn't speak Latin, does she?
She does. Well, there's a translation.
She doesn't translate Latin. Okay, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. Yes.
If miles is MI, then why is it MPH?
Good question. That's a really good one. I've never had a kid ask that. That's a really good one. It should be, shouldn't it? MIPH. He's saying that, well, the abbreviation for miles per hour is MPH. So What is the abbreviation for meters per hour? It's mph as well too. Boy, that's a problem, isn't it? Okay. Last one, kilometers to meters. Who's got it? What do you got? 250,000. So we're going from K to B. We're moving 1, 2, 3 decimal places to the right. There we go. That's a lot of decimal places. So 250,000 meters are in 250 kilometers. 250 kilometers is 6 times 33, about 150 miles. About 150 miles. All right. Do we need to do 2 more? Or we got this concept.
We got this.
All right. I'm moving on. For those of you who actually did the work, here are the 2 answers: 75 meters
Yes.
and 5,620 meters. Good? All right. Okay, so what are we doing today? We're just measuring. I asked some of you to bring in your ruler or your protractor. So a ruler, right, obviously is to measure distance, right? It turns out not because it's made for this, but a protractor, at least the ones that they sell typically, on the bottom, right? This is used to measure angles. We'll do this here in a couple days. Maybe it's tomorrow, I forget. This is how we also can measure, because on the bottom there is a ruler. There is a ruler. Do not break my protractors, right? Do not break my protractor.
No, it was cracked before I got it because Lily cracked it. Lily.
Lily be like,
That's right.
okay. I know that. The Lily back there.
Right.
You skipped me. Right, I did.
Okay, here we go. So we're measuring with metric.
Metric
I
system.
thought you were pulling one up. Okay, so everyone look at the either your ruler or your protractor. Okay,
I didn't get
ruler, catch. Ruler or your protractor. So we are looking at, well, most rulers, including this protractor, have 2 scales. And on this one, the bottom, right, it's upside down, right? The bottom one is inches, right? And the top one is metric. How do I know it's metric? Well, there's an mm, right? Sometimes it will have a cm, right? But typically, if it's metric, it'll either have an mm or a cm. All right, here's the deal. We know that the saying goes, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, right? Drinking chocolate milk, cm. So we know that centimeters are larger than millimeters. So even though this says mm, that means each tick mark is 1 millimeter. Each tick mark is 1 millimeter. Well, clearly, there's a lot of tick marks between here and the number 1, so that means this 1 can't be millimeters. That's got to be centimeters. You got to be careful. Once you learn your ruler once, then you got it. But you got to look at your ruler. How do you remember this? Well, millimeters are the smallest that you'll be measuring with. They're smaller. We just don't have something that goes smaller than that. You have micrometers, right? Nanometers, right? But for rulers in general, the smallest measurement is millimeter. You got to be careful though. Look at your rulers. Some rulers don't have millimeters; they only have centimeters. Okay, so this one measures the large numbers here in centimeters. The protractors I gave you, the same thing. For those who had your own, confirm and make sure that. I don't want to insult your intelligence, but how do we measure things? Well, step number 1 is you got to find 0 on your ruler. There's no 0. Right? Some rulers will actually have a 0. Here's my ruler. Right? This one doesn't measure in millimeters. It's centimeters. It has a 0 on it. The protractor that I have, and that I handed some of you, does not have a 0. However, it does have a first tick mark. The first tick mark, notice, is long compared to the other one. There's 3 sizes. There are 3 sizes of tick marks. The longest one is measuring in centimeters. The middle one is a half of a centimeter, and the smallest one is a tenth of a centimeter, which is a millimeter. Okay? Anyone confused on that? Yes.
So for the inches, there's like 2 more inches for 1.
Well, this is measured in half units, and this is your 0. So 0,
Enjoying 10 minutes feels like 5 seconds.
right. I don't know, they're randomly talking. Okay, so what we got to do is, in order to measure something, we got to find where 0 is. Well, it's not marked on my ruler right here. Well, it's right there. Yes.
So 100 meters.
Well, let's see. If there's 10 tick marks between 0 and 1, 10 times 10 would be 100. So there's 100 millimeters in 10 centimeters. Right? Well, 120. Yes.
Is this supposed to line up with the like measure?
It isn't. Now remember, it's PowerPoint. I didn't make it perfect. So the picture that's on your sheet of paper is just for demonstration purposes. It's not a measuring device, so to speak. Yes.
There's actually 4. You see on the inches, there's 4 different.
There are. We're not talking about inches. We're talking about metric. Okay. Okay, so we found our 0. It's this long line right here at the start that isn't labeled. If you have a ruler, maybe you do have a 0. That's where you got to place on the start of your object, and you just measure it.
John, come sit
See how
over
much-
here.
Now, why did I
John,
give you a picture of this on
come
your
sit
paper?
over here.
Well, some of you, e-learner, please mute. Why did I give you a picture? So some of you, tonight for homework, are going to get home and
Bring it over here.
you're going to ask to measor, and you're
Sit
going to be
over
like,
here.
"Oh,
Oh, no. Look, you could watch what I do, but then in the basement, I'll watch what you do.
dear Lord."
I
Josh!
have to do this shit every day.
It's not Josh.
Who is it?
It's Hugo.
Oh, it sounded like
No, it's Josh. Okay,
Josh Hugo.
so back to what I was saying. Tonight for homework, you're going to get home, and if you don't have a protractor or ruler, how are you going to measure your objects? Well, on your book, right, on page,
469.
is it 460? No, it's not on 469.
It's on 1,500.
It's not. Okay, please stop. I can't do this upside down. Okay, each tick mark is 1 millimeter. Each number is 1 centimeters. Right, 10 tick marks between the numbers. That's 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter. That picture right there is on page. I forget what page.
I'm not sure, but I only have like 4 inch marks on.
We're not looking at inches.
Yes.
We're not looking at inches. We're looking at the metric system.
Centimeters.
All right.
I don't got that on mine. You don't got that? What are those little tiny marks? I don't.
Okay, so no metric.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All right. His problem was he doesn't have a metric system.
I have the same one too. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
It's in my backpack. I had the
Yeah,
same
those
one.
are the ones that you get if you ordered like the thing that
Yeah,
comes
this-
with all
I
the
guess it is
supplies
supplies,
in
right.
one box.
Well, technically, the ruler is what you should be using, not the protractor. Right?
Protractor works better though.
No, it's just more convenient because it's one tool for 2 different options. All right, to measure. Oh, I got to talk about the previous one. No one could tell me what page that this was on. It's 110. When you get tonight for homework and you're trying to measure something and you don't have one, you're going to use the picture in the book. And the picture in the book is an accurate measuring tool. I'll show you how to use that here in a second. Okay, so some quick notations about how we have to do this. They're going to give you a segment to measure it, right? You're not going to measure from the middle of the dot to the middle of the dot. You're going to measure from the start of the dot to the end of the dot. Start of the dot to the end of the dot. Make sense? All right. No, I don't want to insult your intelligence. No. But you put your 0 line at the start. You look to the end and you read the numbers. Now, we know that there are, 10 tick marks between each centimeters. The centimeter would be, or the tick marks would be your decimal place. So, look at box number, what are we on? Box number 5, and let's do some measuring. Box number 4 is 2 things. All right, look the board, please. Now, occasionally math can be troublesome. This is one of the cases. Believe it or not, people weren't happy, or mathematicians weren't happy with using this symbol to designate the measurement of something. So this symbol is the name of this object. What's the name of this object?
AB.
It's segment AB. Well, how do we know that? Because there's a segment over AB. This is how we name an object. If we want to measure an object, well, I apologize for all mathematicians. We weren't happy with that. We changed it up. You paying attention?
Yeah.
We have a different way of showing measurements.
Really?
Here's how we show measurement. We erase the line over the top and we put an equal sign. So if you do not see a line or segment over the top, it's saying that's the measurement of it. They want to separate this idea of the name of it and the measurement of it. Tonight for homework, they're going to show you both. If there's a line over the top, they're saying that's the
Segment.
That's the name. If there's no line over the top, they're asking you to do what? They're asking you to measure it. Okay? Please stop. They're asking you to measure it. I know this is hard, at least at 7th grade level. Even my high school students have trouble with this. Sometimes I'll put a line over the top, sometimes I won't. You have to be able to go back and forth. If there's a line over the top, I'm saying, what's its name? Right? If there's not one on, I'm asking you to measure it. Yes? It is, right? Keep that in the back of your head and you'll see why very last slide. All right, so let's measure. So here we go. Now, I can't do this accurately because obviously my segment is way longer than yours, right? So when I actually show you a picture of it on the board, ignore the fact that my numbers aren't going to match your numbers. You take your measuring device. You place the 0 on the start of the dot, and you read to the end. So mine goes to 9 and a little bit over halfway. So if I were measuring using this device, I would say it's 9.5 centimeters. Well, clearly on your paper, yours and mine aren't going to match because mine's going to be enlarged. So just bear that in mind. Okay? So if I were to measure this, I would get a number, right? So on page 110, right, you get this ruler right here, basically. So how do you do this without a ruler? You take your magic paper. And here's how it's done. I take that in a marking device. I place one side, right, of your paper at the start and one side at the finish, and I mark where it finishes. You see what I did? I now know that that segment is from here to this mark. Yes? I place that on the ruler, and I read. This is 3.3 centimeters. For those of you that don't have a ruler tonight, that's what you'll have to do on every one. For those of you with a ruler, well, then you place your ruler on the segment and measure it. Questions? Yes.
It's like 3.5, like 3.6.
Yeah, and we are going to do some rounding. So take your best guesstimate of what it is. And it is a rounding thing. And there will never be, completely totally accurate. All right, like I said, I can't actually pull my measuring device up next to it. I will show you because I measured them myself with my thing on the paper. I will show you the right numbers, but I can't actually pick this up and go like this because for me, this thing is 24 centimeters long. Yours is not 24 centimeters long. So everybody grab your measuring device. Let's do the first one, box 5. Place your 0 at the start of the dot, not the end of the dot. Read all the way across. Remember, your big number is your centimeters, and there's 10 tick marks in between. Those 10 tick marks are your decimal, point something. So what did you get? Kira, what'd you get? For the first one. How much?
3 inches.
We're measuring in centimeters. We're measuring in centimeters. Okay, it came out exactly 7, yes? Okay.
I got 6.8.
Notice that 7 is way over here. This came 6. Between 6 and 7, how many tick marks between 6 and 7? Well, is it halfway going to the end of the dot? So 6.6 6.6 would be right here, the first tick mark. Yours goes to the second tick mark. As Kira lined it up, she got 6.7. What did you guys get?
I got 6.7.
I would absolutely accept anywhere between maybe a 6.6 and a 6.8,
Oh, you said
Right.
I got 6.8.
right? That's good.
Not 6.5.
6.5 is definitely not the answer. Like, if you put it on there, you're getting 6.5, you're doing something wrong. Remember, we're going from start of the dot to the end of the dot. Okay? The fact that you got 6.5 tells me at least you're in the ballpark, sure, but you need to get between 6.6 and 6.8.
I got 6.8. Millimeters too?
Remember that 0.8 is your millimeter,
Yeah, I know.
right? Oh, by the way, how do we convert from centimeters to millimeters? Well, what's the answer? Okay, so there's the power of the metric system. You just literally changed your units, and all you did was look at a decimal place. If we were to convert inches into feet, you're dividing by, or you're multiplying by 12. Or sorry, dividing by 12. Right? It's hard math to do. Who's lost? I need to help the people that are lost. Measure the second one. I'm going to watch you do this. Measure the second one. We don't need to do 40 of these, but we do need to do at least 3 or 4 of them. Measure. Come on. Watch you see what you do right or wrong.
Hi, done.
What'd you get? I was done.
I've done for 7 years.
That's what I was saying. Yes. Anybody else? Need help?
I'm just confused of where to put it. Like,
Put it on the start of the dot, measure it to the end of the dot.
like this.
Like that.
Okay. I was just making.
All right. So what do we get, class, as an answer?
4.7.
I got 4.8, but I think there's an argument to make for 4.7, right? There's definitely not an argument for 4.6. There's definitely not an argument for 4.9. But 4.7 and 4.8, I agree. So how many millimeters?
48.
Easy or hard?
Easy.
All right, so tonight's homework should be pretty darn quickly done.
37.
Last one is 1.6 or 16 millimeters.
I can do this by sleep.
Agreed. Today's not a challenging day. Yes.
When should I ask about questions on the homework?
Well, we're not there. I haven't taught you everything yet. We still got, what 15 minutes of class. And we're only on box 5. Can we measure things now?
Yes.
All right. Now, all by yourself, box 6. All by yourself, box 6. Well, then, turn your paper.
Like this.
I am.
Is there a zero?
Turn your paper sideways.
Is this right here is a zero?
That is the 0. But that's inches. We're not measuring.
No, I'm measuring.
Oh, yeah, that's your 0. That's your 0. All right. We confident? Anyone needs me to watch you?
Nope. Oh, wait, can you watch me?
No.
Mr. Chartier.
But,
It's like super easy. The only thing that.
well, I haven't got to the very end, which is what your question is going to be on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get the part I know how to do done right now,
There you go. Excellent.
and then whenever we get there, I'm
All
gonna.
right. For those of you that do not have a protractor or ruler at home, do you understand what you'll have to do tonight with a piece of paper? Right? You'll have to transfer it onto the ruler on page 110.
What's here? Is it just a bunch of empty boxes?
Yeah, we got to write some definitions.
A lot of definitions.
No, just there's only one box that has a number on it.
Oh, why do you put the just?
I don't change. All I do is copy it from the previous slide. So the previous slide has 6 boxes. So I only use the boxes that I need.
I thought we had 6 definitions.
Total, there's probably today of 4 or 5. But all right, we good? Are we still measuring?
I'm still measuring.
All right.
Oh,
Remember, I want the answer in both centimeters and millimeters. Centimeters and millimeters. Technically, we could also put it in kilometers. Really easy. Just moving a decimal place. It's going to be a very small decimal for the number of kilometers. Kilometers is a large measurement.
kilometers big. Kilometers? It's like a mile.
No,
No, it's
0.6 of a mile.
That's like point.
Oh, it's far, but it's not a mile. Whenever you hear about people running, they say I'm running in a 5K or a 10K. That K stands for kilometers.
I've done a 15K.
Yes.
I thought it
I can't hear you. What? What?
Yo, kilometers like 0.6
Oh, if it goes past the protractor, you got problems, don't you?
Ooh, I know
All
what
right,
to do.
so here's what you can do when it goes past the protractor. Measure as far as you can. Are you listening? Measure as far as you can. You put a tick mark right there. And you measure from the tick mark to the end.
I
And then
just
add the
keep
two.
I just keep my thumb there and then just.
Yeah, well, we want to induce the least amount of error as possible. So certainly using a thumb is a technique, but you induce a lot of error that way. Questions? All right, for those of you with a ruler, you don't need to extend anything. With a protractor, you might have to. Although I will say I didn't make a single one for my protractor that can't be measured on this page. All right, Parker, first one, what'd you get? 2.6 is what I got as well too, so 26 millimeters. Oops. 2.5 I can live with, 2.7 I can live with. I can't live with 2.4 or 2.8. Right? All right, Malachi, you got the middle one? What you got? You didn't do it? Malachi, you got to do it all. What you got?
7.6 centimeters, 76 millimeters.
That's what I got as well too.
I got
I can live with 7.5 or 7.7, but not 7.4 or 7.8.
Not 7.4, 7.7, 7.4 and below, and 7.8 and above, or 7.7 and above.
All right. Last one. Who wants it? What do you got?
5.9 centimeters.
5.9 is not what I got.
I got 5.2.
5.4 I can live with. Right?
Oh, I got.
I'm not claiming that I measured it more accurately than you, but 5.9 is definitely not the right answer.
What up?
All right.
How did you get?
All right. Questions.
I got 5.
All right. We are moving. Okay. So the last ideas are pretty easy, but it's some definitions. Okay. Write this down, please. Box 7A. Flip it over. Okay. As the name would imply, midpoint is a point that's in the middle, right? It's a point on a segment. Remember, a segment has a starting point and an ending point. So a midpoint would be the middle of that segment, right? It would, the consequence of that is if you find the midpoint, you've divided your segment into 2 equal parts. Midpoint. It doesn't apply to lines. There's no middle of the line. Wake up, please, write. Flip your paper over and write. Thank you. Midpoints. The point of a segment that divides a segment. Well, that's a lot of words. The point of a segment that divides a segment into 2 equal pieces. In other words, it's the middle of the segment. You can't have a middle of a ray. You can't have a middle of a line, but you can have a middle of a segment. Okay. Unfortunately, this adds some complexity that you are unaware of. So I need to explain this complexity. Hey, there's a segment AB that again there. Let's say that the segment is 10 centimeters long. Where's the midpoint?
5 centimeters.
Okay. Can you wrap your head around that the midpoint would be at 5 centimeters?
Yes.
Okay. Not a hard thing to wrap your head around. Okay. So that means that the consequences of midpoint is it breaks it up into 2 equal parts. That means that AM is now 5 centimeters. That means that MB is also. Okay, that's the thing that's easy to wrap your head around. Now the last thing is the complicated thing, and you got to pay attention. Right now, my geometry students are so involved in this, and this concept is supposed to be taught in 7th grade. You're in 7th grade. So here comes the concept that even some of my high school students struggle with.
Oh no.
Okay. So we've just broken a segment into 2 equal parts, okay? That means their distances are the same, right? AM to MB are the same. Well, are they the same segment?
No.
Would you agree that they're not the same segment?
No.
They have the same measurements though, right? But they're 2 unique segments. Well, one's called AM and one's called MB.
Yes.
In geometry, we take care of that situation where you have 2 things that have the same measurements, but are 2 different things. I don't mean one's a triangle, one's a segment. I mean they have the same measurements, but they're two different segments. Does anybody already know the answer to this, what we use in math to take care of that? When you have the same measurement, but you're a different object. Okay. If there isn't a line over the top, what am I asking you to do? Measure. So AM is equal to BM. Remember, AB would be the name of the segment, or AM or MB. But if there's no line over the top, I'm asking you to measure it. Okay? Since they're both equal to 5 centimeters, they are equal to each other. Yes? If it says so. So the last one is the biggest idea, and it's this concept of this. If you have two things, right, that literally have the same measurements. Here's 2 sticks. I bought them at Home Depot. They are literally the same thing. Like they have the same measurements. But they are 2 unique sticks. This is one on the left. Listen, please. This is one on the left. This is one on the right. If I cut this up into 20 pieces and then burn them, have I affected this piece? So there are 2 different things, right? Because if they were the same thing, if I burn this one, well, then this one gets burned, right? They're 2 different things that have exactly the same measurements. They're the same diameter. They have the same volume. They have the same length. Everything about them is the same, but they're 2 different things. I typically in high school talk about identical twins. If you are identical twins, as the name would imply, you are identical. But we wouldn't say that they are the same person. We would say, no, those are 2 different people. In in geometry, this is that concept of 2 different things that everything about them is the same. It's a paradox. They're not the same thing, but everything about them is the same. Right? Can you understand the paradox there? We're just talking about 2 identical things, but you have 2 of them. Okay? When we cut this segment into 2 parts, do we not have 2 of the same things now?
Yes.
Same measurements, but are they the same?
No.
They're not. They're 2 unique things. I got this thing on the left and thing on the right. They're both 5 centimeters. So in geometry, we have a way of doing this. This has got to go in box 7B. This is what? The name or the measurement? If we talk about the name, AM and MB, I can't put an equal sign between them. Equal means that they are the same. That's literally what equal means. You are the same. They're not the same. Literally, one's called AM and one's called MB. So we use a different symbol to denote that they are 2 unique things. Anybody know?
An equal symbol does not.
That would be does not equal. You got it. All right. This in geometry is this idea of congruence. Congruence is the idea that you have 2 of the same measurements, but 2 unique things. This is called congruence. Write this down, box 7B. 7B is called congruence. That's when you have 2 or 3 or 4 of things, and those things have the same size and they are the same shape. I mean, you can have 2 things that are 10 centimeters long. One could be a triangle, the perimeter of a triangle. One could be the length of a segment. Great, they're both 10 centimeters long. They're certainly not the same shape. They're not congruent. But when you have 2 of the same thing, 2 triangles, 2 segments, right? 2 hexagons, who have the same size and they are the same shape, we say they are congruent. We don't say they're equal. Their measurements are equal, but the thing itself, the names are congruent. And the symbol is what? Say it again. What's the symbol? What is the symbol? Okay, that's the symbol. Write that down. That is the congruent symbol. The congruent symbol, well, there's an equal sign there, but it has a squiggle over the top of it. Not a line through it, that would be not equal. Not 2 squiggles. 2 squiggles means approximately. It has 1 squiggle. This is the idea of congruent. Congruent means 2 things, that everything about them is the same, but you got 2 of them. 2 triangles, 2 segments, 2 hexagons, 2 cones. We like congruency. When you buy a package of ice cream cones, you want them all to be the same size because you don't want your sister to get more ice cream than you do. You want them to be congruent. That means their measurements are equal. But your cone and her cone are not the same thing. They're 2 different cones. Yours has got chocolate in it, hers has got strawberry. Okay?
Ew.
That's why she's your sister. She eats weird things.
No.
Okay. Hey, this may not seem like a big deal. This is a huge deal. Wake up. This is a huge deal in geometry. And as you go forward in geometry, you're going to be dealing with an equality symbol and a congruency symbol. Every single day in geometry, we deal with these 2 symbols, equals and congruency symbol. The equal symbol and the congruency symbol. Questions on anything we did today? Yes. I'm going to come by and collect them. You're going to stay in your seats.
Wait, I can use it.
Remember what I said. I'm going to go all the way back to, I'm going to go back to this page right there. How do you measure this? You take your paper. You put your paper up to the segment. You take your pen and you mark. Hey, it's this long. From here to here. Now you take your paper, you put it up to the ruler that's on page 110, and you read. That's how you do that if you don't have a protractor at home.
If you have line paper, you can see
If you have line paper, even better because it's got some lines on it, right?
I think there's some bigger lines as well.
Oh, that's another way. There's other techniques. All right, I need my protractors back.
I don't know for sure, but I think. Wait, can I see? I don't. Can I see it? I gotta measure it.
Hey, one note. In a couple days, I don't know if it's tomorrow or the next day, we're going to be measuring angles. If you have a protractor, you need to make sure you bring it every day for this chapter. Hey, if your protractor does not, these used to be produced without holes in them. If your protractor does not have this hole, it is unusable. Unusable. They used to sell these all the time, and it ticked me off, like no tomorrow. Parents buy this because it's metal, like, oh, my son or daughter can't break this, right? But they didn't have a hole in it. It was an unusable device. It's crazy.
How is it unusable?
The hole is what you line up with the angle. If there's no hole there, you can't line it up with the angle.
So what happened? Okay.
Well, how do you know they gave you the wrong protractor?
Because they don't have holes in them.
Well,
I go. What if it's on the sides?
perfect, right there. Pull your protractor out.
This is a hole.
Mr. Sergio, this is a hole. This is just.
No, that's the hole you line up with the angle.
It's not a hole.
Yeah, but you can see it, right?
I thought I could. Yeah.
Protractors. Do not leave. Stay in your seats. Protractors.
I measured the line paper.
Only way I know that I have all my protractors. All right, throw the protractors. All right, forward.
He can imagine Groot, except it's just in like I am
Who's got one of those school protractors? Let me see. I'm pretty sure.
imagine Groot, except he's just really annoying. Someone said and I was talking to him. He was so cute. My mom went down. What kind of car do you want? Look, I wanted to drive my
You can get a Tesla.
I know.
You have to go like one of those. I know. They're cool. The key is really either a free card or you really just free to go.
Honestly, you can literally just swipe it on the
Hey, that's my seat.
I didn't see anything on it, my bad.
Oh, okay. I'll just steal Micah's.
You want me to switch or?
No, you're good. I'll just steal Micah's. No. Micah will make you move. Exactly.
Micah's gonna throw a hissy fit.
You should have said, I'd like to see him try.
Who's absent today?
No, maybe.
Am I?
Nate.
Can I using lip gloss?
No.
It's good, Chandler. Keep your lips from cracking. It's horrible when they crack. And plus, it makes your lips shiny.
Sounds good.
Ooh, I like it.
We gotta take my seat like that one. Because he's on mine.
Wait, hold on. How is this on me?
No,
All I did was sit here.
not.
I'm trying to
I was betting that Micah was going to throw a hissy fit. I lost.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 days.
Rich.
Plus 7 days. 6 days. 7.